Peace. My name is Allah Faber. I'm the creator and owner of BabyBeautiful.co, which is an online baby store that sells baby clothes. Each week I do a video that pertains particularly to that website. This is something that I've initiated for a couple of months now to get the word out and make it public about BabyBeautiful.co, because I want people to be aware of the online baby store. But even more, I want people to be able to support it and use it as a means by which to dress their babies. We sell the best quality clothes that is available to dress your babies. So if you have not heard of it yet, then I would suggest that you go to BabyBeautiful.co, to the website, and review all of the clothing that we sell for babies. Now, all of the people who have supported me this far, I want to thank them, because in supporting me, you in turn support your own babies and the future babies of the next generation. The online baby store is about not just selling the clothes, but it's also about bringing a message to young mothers and fathers that are having their babies today and have already produced babies. That message is a message that I want to bring forth to them as mothers and fathers that are raising their children today in this society and in this world. And I want to say to them, as I've said in all of my videos prior to this one, that the babies are the future generations of our nation. We must educate, nurture, develop them to the point where they will be able to be self-sufficient and independent as individuals, contributing to the society and the world in which they live in order for us to produce normal, functioning human beings that will be able to make a contribution to the society and the world, then they must be taught from a young age, nurtured, developed, and educated from a young age. That process starts not when the baby is born, but while the baby is going through the developing stages in the mother. So that means that the mothers play a crucial role in how that baby is going to develop and grow to come into the world. This is what I'm talking about before the baby's even born. Mothers play a major role in molding and shaping the kind of child that they're going to produce into the world. That takes a lot on the part of the mother, as well as the father, because he has to give the kind of love and support that is needed for the mother to be able to produce the best child that she can possibly produce. And then once the child is in the world, now the process starts to nurturing, developing, educating, and teaching the child so that the child will become a normal, functioning human being in the society and the world in which we live. That's what the message of BabyBeautiful.co is all about. Now, I have a motto that is from a traditional background and history of my way of life that was given to us by Allah, the man who established my way of life. He said, save the babies, they're the greatest. In each one of my videos, I express that. Save the babies, they are the greatest. So in saying that, my mission is to do exactly that. So that's why I established babybeautiful.co as an online baby store selling baby clothes. Because I want it to be where this becomes a household name. Where when young mothers and fathers, as well as old, when they think of dressing their babies, they should think of babybeautiful.co. I want it to be where this is our home and our family. We also use this as a means of economic development, meaning that we have to be able to secure the future generations of the babies of our nation. We can't do that if we are not preparing a future for them. So that starts with establishing businesses. And in turn, those businesses will create communities so that our children will be able to grow, develop, be educated, and taught within the confines of that community so that they can develop the values, morals, and principles and the behavior and actions that will determine who they are to the world and to the society in which they live. We don't want to be able to produce children that become an embarrassment to us, to society, and to the world. We want them to be the shining light of the society and world in which they will be entering and living in. In order to do that, we must equip them with the values, morals, and principles and the behavior and actions that will enable them to be the best examples of what it is to be someone who contributes to their society and world. We can do that. So we have to use babybeautiful.co as the basis of economic development and growth so that we can begin to build communities. We can't do that if we are not producing businesses by which to build these communities so that our children will be able to grow up in communities where they will be equipped with what they need to survive in the society and world in which they will have to live. We can do this. And this is what my message is with babybeautiful.co. Now today, in this video, I want to focus on 4 things that will add to the message in which I'm attempting to bring to mothers and fathers. And those 4 things are this: human beings, females, as well as males and females, not just one side or the other side. So my human beings, females and males, men and women, and being a person. So I will focus on the 4 areas: human being, male or female, man and woman, and a person. because those four areas is going to tie into what my presentation will be for today. And that is relationships. Because I think that there's something that is missing that is very important with us as a people. We have not dealt properly with what is the meaning of relationships. I think that is a issue that we need to seriously deal with, because it is the failure to deal with relationships that has created some of the problems that we have as a people today. So that's why I want to focus on that, and I want to tie in the four things that I mentioned with that. So I want to begin by this. When a child is born in the world, that is a human being being born into the world. Now, the anatomy of the child is what determines whether it's a male or female, meaning its biological makeup. Once it is determined just by looking at the child anatomy, you will be able to determine male or female. If you see a penis, you know it's a male. If you see a vagina, you know it's a female. I want to make sure that we understand exactly what I'm talking about. So the first stage is a human being being born in the world. The second stage is male or female, determined by the anatomy. And then the third stage is developing them to become a person in the world. And through adulthood, they will develop to become a man or a woman in the world. So those four stages that they go through: first becoming in the world as a human being, then determining the anatomy, which is male or female, then they develop to be a person in the world. And that, in turn, the last stage is male or female developing into the man and woman in the world. Now, I think we don't really look at those developing stages, because oftentimes we are not taught the value of the stages that we go through of development and growth in our individual lives. And that is one of the reasons, I think, why we suffer in terms of how we relate to one another, how we deal with each other. I'm talking about as male and female, and as man and woman. We don't see the real value and understand the importance of what it is for us to have the kind of connection and relationships with each other. There is 3 stages of relationships that I think is important. The first stage is family relationships. Family relationships is of the utmost importance, because that's where you get your values, your morals, and your principles from, your behavior and your actions. All of that comes from your family development. So that determines what kind of individual you will develop to be. And then you have the friend relationship, meaning the kind of relationships that you develop throughout the course of your life with people outside of your family that you consider to be friends. Those are important relationships because those relationships help you to better be able to relate to people outside of your family, to be able to learn and understand what it is to have a friend or have a friendship with someone. That is important because you are beginning now to socialize and interact with other people. And in the world in which you live, in the society that you grow up in, you need to be able to understand the socialization of dealing with people and the world. So that's the second one that is important. The third one that I find to be important is sexual relationships. Now this one is one that I think is of a particular importance because this is where we lack in a lot of regards. Now what I mean by that is that we don't fully understand what it is to have a sexual relationship. Because if we did, we would have the value that comes along with having a sexual relationship. And we would understand that having a sexual relationship can change the course of our life. Let me say that again. We would understand that having a sexual relationship can change the course of our life. Emotionally, mentally, psychologically, and physically, it can change the course of our life. Now, I don't think that many of us really, truly understand that. So that's why I want to focus on the third one. Because I spoke about the family relationship that is of the utmost importance. Then I spoke about the friend relationship. But I want to spend some time on dealing with the sexual relationship because I think that holds a particular importance because many of the children that are in the world today and many of the ones that was born yesterday and will be born tomorrow are born as a result of sexual relationships that just happen. Now, of course, children are born through sex, period, but when you have a sexual relationship with someone that y'all don't share commonality, that there's no future in this, that it's just something for sexual gratification and recreation, and it was not intended for procreation, that was just the end results of what happened. That creates a problem. Because now you have a child that was born in the world that was really unwanted. There was no preparation. There was not any discussion about bringing a child in the world and the things that you will need to be able to do, make adjustments in your life so that you will prepare yourself to be a mother and a father to a newborn child. Those are not things that many of us thought about or even think about when we have sexual relationships. So that's why I said this one, the third one, is particularly important in the sense that we don't value the meaning of a sexual relationship with someone else, the opposite sex. Because if we did, then it would not be something that we would enter without even thinking about it, without any preparation, without any discussion about where is this going. Is this just going to be for the moment, or is this something that's going to go beyond that moment? Or is it just going to be for recreation and gratification? Or is a family going to come out of this? Are we going to develop a bond where we establish the beginning of what will become a family? Because if that's not the case, then we repeat the same cycle over and over again. Children being born in the world, from this one, that one, and many young mothers having babies by different young men. Now, that is a problem because when a young woman has many babies by different men, we can see that there's a problem there. And the problem is rooted in the values, morals, and principles, the behavior and the actions. Goes back to the conditioning that I spoke about in several of the videos that I've already done. We have to change the way we think. If we don't change the way we think, our actions will be the same. It will just be repeating what has already happened in the past with young men and women that fail to really understand the importance of the decisions that they made to have sex. And this is not on one side or the other side. No, we're talking about overall. So it's not blaming the woman or blaming the man. What I'm saying is that we have to look at it and begin to become more conscious of the decisions that we make to indulge in sexual relationships with each other. What does that really mean? And what comes out of that as a result of the children that are born? Because these children are growing up in a society and in a world in which they don't have the kind of nurturing, education, and teaching that will enable them to be able to develop into normal, functioning human beings, individuals, and men and women. And it goes back to the root of what I spoke about in prior videos, the conditioning. We have to attack the conditioning because that conditioning shapes the way we think. It shapes our values, our morals, our principles, our behavior, and our actions. So we have to attack that. If we don't attack that, it doesn't matter what we talk about or what we do, because it's all going to be out of that conditioning. So we need to attack that. And the way that we do that is we start looking at all of the things in our lives, choices and decisions that we make, and the root of where all of that comes from, the conditioning. The kind of education that we are exposed to, the kind of teachings that we are exposed to, the religious institutions that exist in the society and the world in which we live, our socialization, the environments that we live in, the kind of things that we expose ourselves to or are exposed to us, the kind of people that we surround ourselves with, the kind of associations and affiliations that we have with individuals, organizations, groups, or people in general. All of this is what molds and shapes how we think, how we perceive the world, and how we deal and interact with the world and people. So we have to look at all of those factors, even down to the kind of music that we listen to, the kind of clothes that we buy and wear, all of the things that we like and dislike. All of this play a role in the kind of individuals that we develop and become. So the way we are today in our lives is as a result of all those factors that I just mentioned. So if we want to control all of those factors in the lives of our children, then we have to start changing it in our own lives. Because what we do is passed down to our children. They listen to what you say, but they watch what you do. And watching what you do has more of an impact on them than what you say. Let me say that again. Watching what you do has more of an impact on them than what you say. So we have to be mindful that our actions speak louder than our words. And that is an old saying, that actions speak louder than words. Because you can say one thing, but do another. So people judge you not by what you say, but by what you do. So we need to be the best at what we do, not so much as what we say. Because in what we do, that transmits the kind of teaching that will have an impact in the lives of not just our own children, but in the lives of other people's children that watch and see what we're doing. See, this is not just about us as individuals. It's about us as a people. So when we make decisions in sexual relationships, those decisions are coming from the base of the conditioning that we are under. If we don't change that conditioning, those decisions that we make in sexual relationships is going to be a repeating cycle. It's not going to change. Because the root of those decisions are coming from the conditioning. Now I know growing up as a young man, I was always attracted to the black woman, like any young black man growing up in America. I mean, the black woman is beautiful. And her beauty is something that emanates through her wherever she goes. So that was something that I had to come to terms with myself. How do I be able to appreciate her beauty without lusting after her beauty? Because you can learn to appreciate the beauty of the woman. I'm talking about the black woman, only the black woman. I'm talking about no other woman. So I want that to be understood. Only the black woman. You can learn to appreciate her beauty without always wanting to have sex with her. Because every woman that you see is not for the purpose of you having sex with. And the same thing applies on the other side with young women. Oftentimes we don't speak about that. But young women are more sexual than young men. Let me say that again. Young women are more sexual than young men. And that is because women have an innate ability to understand the sexual aspect of herself before a young man understands the sexual aspect of himself. Now, I'm not talking about something that is not a fact. This is a fact. A female child, when born in the world, knows that she's a female child before a male child knows that he's a male child. It is an innate ability for the female child to understand that she is different from the male child. Whereas the male child don't really understand the difference until he's a little older. Why is that? The interesting thing about that is that both male and female have different abilities that are naturally within them. And this is not something that is saying that women are more knowledgeable or more aware than men. No, this is not saying that. Or that the female child is more intelligent than the male child. No, I'm not saying any of that. What I'm saying is we need to understand the natural inclination of the female child as opposed to the male child. And in understanding that, we can see that the female child knows that she's a female child before the male child knows that he's a male child. This is something that you can look at, research it, and you can find out whether it's true or not. I'm telling you something based upon my own knowledge and experience. So anything that you have a problem with, you can just go and look it up. But in that sense, the reason why I focus on sexual relationships is because that is something that many young men and women can't see past. When they look at each other, that's all they see. Because that's all I saw growing up as a young man. When I looked at the female, all I was thinking about was sex. I'm looking at her, she looking good. All I'm thinking about is getting in that sex. And I'm thinking that this is normal. I mean, to me, that's what it appeared to be, normal. It wasn't until years later that I realized that the way I thought then was as a result of my state of conditioning. That wasn't normal. That was abnormal. Because when you look at the opposite sex only in a sexual manner, that's an abnormal way of looking at them. Because you don't see the totality of the human being, of the person, of the individual. You just see the sexual aspect of them. And this is where many of us make poor and even bad choices to deal with sexual relationships with each other, because we only see it on a sexual level. We don't understand the value of what sex is. I spoke about it last week, about sex being not for recreation and gratification, but for procreation. Let me say it again. Sex is not for the purpose of gratification and recreation. It is for procreation. even to produce children. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't enjoy the beauty of having sex. That doesn't mean that. What I'm saying, it means this, that you don't look at the enjoyment as the basis of having sex. That should be a part of having sex. You should definitely enjoy it, but for that to be the basis by which you make the decision to have sex, that's what I'm talking about. And using sex as the means, and the only means, by which you want to deal with the opposite sex. And when I say opposite sex, I'm talking about male and female. Because females look at males in the same way. Yes, females look at males in the same way. It took me time to understand that too. As a young man, I didn't know that. I'm thinking that I'm the only one that's viewing her like that. But that was not true. She was also looking at me like that. Because we both come from the same state of conditioning. To see each other as sexual objects. Just to engage in sexual pleasure. So it's not just the male, it's also the female. I mean, I spoke about in one of the videos, that's evident in the society and the world in which we live, where you see prostitution is a big thing. And then the porn industry, the pornographic industry, that's a big thing too. I mean, people are always in the news and all type of stuff for all type of pornographic acts that they commit. So you have to remember that we live in a real sexualized society where it's became to the point where everything is focused on sex. So we have to change the way that we think in order to really attack that perception of what sex is. We can't do that if we continue to have the same values, morals, and principles and same behavior and actions coming out of that conditioning. The only way we will be able to change that is we have to change that conditioning. So I want to say today in this video that the third part of what I spoke about, sexual relationships, we have to seriously look at that. And we have to challenge ourselves as individuals to deal with that, because many of the problems that we have today is as a result of that. I'm talking about in relationships, male and female relationships, young black men and women, because the way we view sex is all wrong. The way we view each other is all wrong. it all comes out of the conditioning that we are totally unaware of. So we have to change that conditioning. That's the only way that we will be able to change the way that we look at each other, the way that we interact in relationships with each other. Because if we don't do that, we will continue to perpetuate, meaning to continue going on and on. We will continue to perpetuate that kind of behavior. So we have to change the condition. And I know that's hard because it was hard for me not to see the black woman in a sexual manner. And I'm not saying you can't see her that way after you change that conditioning. I'm saying that you will be able to appreciate and understand the beauty of seeing her in a sexual manner when you change that conditioning. Because it will be more than just looking at her from a sexual perspective. You will see the totality of the human being, the totality of the female, of the woman, the person that she is. And in turn, on the opposite side, she will see the totality of the young man, the person, the male, and the individual that he is. And together, they can understand the importance of what it is to produce children in a family structure, not just having babies all over the place. You know, you have some young women that they've been playing with dolls so long growing up that they look at their babies in some form or another as a doll. And that is crazy. A baby is not a doll. It's a human being. It needs love, nurturing, education, and teaching to develop into a normal functioning human being. But if they have not been taught themselves, then how would they know to teach their own babies? If they grew up the same way, how would they know to be able to teach their own babies? And the same thing falls on the side of the young man or young men. We have to stop looking at the fact that she had a little baby by you, that this is your little man, that he's like, you know, some kind of symbol of manhood, of masculinity, that you laid it down, and as a result, he was born. The definition of manhood is not defined by you planting a baby in a female. That's not the definition of manhood. We have been falsely taught that when you are able to use your sperm to impregnate the opposite sex, there's some way that defines you as a man. No, that has nothing to do with the definition of manhood. So we have to get out of that state of mind as young men, thinking that our sperm is what defines who we are, shows our strength. No, that doesn't say that at all. We have a problem because as a people, we have lost what is called the passage, the rites of passage. Now, the rites of passage was on both sides, male and female. The rites of passage is the stages that the male and female went through to reach womanhood and to reach manhood. It was called the rites of passage. This was an ancient African traditional way of bringing a female child to womanhood and bringing a male child to manhood. We have lost that as a people through the conditions of slavery and then the conditioning of us becoming the kind of people that we became in America. We lost the rites of passage. So now we've made up our own definitions of the rites of passage, which is definitely all wrong, because even you have females that when they go through puberty, same thing as a male. Male goes through puberty. The female has her menstruation when she goes through that process of puberty. The male child begins to be able to now produce sperm cells. But that doesn't mean because she has her menstruation and he able to produce sperm cells that automatically they should be able to now have children. They're able to do that, but that doesn't mean that they should do that at those ages. Because we see what happened as a result of them doing that. Look at all of the young men and women today with all these children that they are unable or ill-prepared to deal with, to raise. So that tells you that just because you went through puberty, she can have her menstruation and he can produce sperm cells because she is able to now go through menstruation. That doesn't mean that she should be having sex. The menstruation is a natural process of the female child developing and growing into a young woman. Her body goes through the biological changes to develop her into a young woman. And on the other side, the male child, his body goes through the biological changes by him being able to produce sperm to develop him as a young man. But that doesn't mean that it's time to have sex. That's why in the traditional African rites of passage, you were taught what that meant and what you do after that. Not that you just go running wild and having sex because you can. Because that produces unwanted children. And that is something that we have to understand. So that's why in the beginning I spoke about being born in the world as a human being, as a female or male child, based upon looking at the anatomy, determines what sex it is, then developing into a person, and then developing into a man and a woman. Because those 4 stages supposed to be stages where you learn the importance of what each stage means to you as an individual and your responsibility as an individual going through those stages of development and growth. That's the rites of passage, where you will be able to have the kind of responsibility in decision making in your own life. But because we don't have that, we just do anything at any time, anywhere. I know that to be true in my own life, because as a young man growing up, I was having sex with females all over the place. Didn't matter to me. Definitely didn't matter to them either, because they was doing it. I mean, this was something that I didn't even think about. I'm pretty sure they didn't think about it either. I mean, I would do it anywhere, in their house, in my sister's house, in clubhouses, in hallways, basements. It didn't matter to me. It didn't matter to her either, because we was under that state of conditioning. We didn't even understand what sex was. All we knew was that we wanted to do it. And I have no doubt that that is the same way of thinking and state of conditioning that young men and women are under today. That has not changed. I even see it and witness it throughout my travels, so I know it's true. And even to the point where some females have attempted to approach me, not knowing that I was already aware of all of that. So I'm not going to allow you to get me into that state of mind. No, that's something that you're still stuck in. I'm not in that state of mind anymore. That was a long time ago. But we still suffer from this conditioning. And until we change that conditioning, we will remain the same as individuals. And it will not change until we decide to change it. So I want to say before I end this video that we have to come to terms with ourselves. I often say that everything points back to self. Our greatest challenge is to challenge the self. We have to challenge ourselves to be the best that we can be in whatever we do. We have to challenge ourselves to do that. And today, I was going to be, on another note, today I was going to be in downtown Brooklyn giving out samples of BabyBeautiful.co products. But I've changed that, and I'm going to do it another Saturday, so I will let you know. More than likely it will be next Saturday, because we was having problems with whether the weather was going to hold up or not. But as it stands now, it seems like the weather is holding up. So I may do it next Saturday. But until then, go to BabyBeautiful.co. Become a supporter if you haven't already did that. And help me to build a future for our children so that we will be able to build communities where they will be able to grow up in those communities with the pride, the dignity, and self-respect, the knowledge that they need to be able to function in the world as normal human beings and make their mark and contribution to the society and world in which they live. Help me do that by supporting BabyBeautiful.co. I want to make it a household name where we do all our shopping here. That's another way for us to develop economically. Use it as an economic tool by which to build communities. So with that, I'm going to say peace, and until next week, be blessed.